welcome to episode number 1 of the Danny Batten MMA Show, only on ACE Podcast Nation. I'm your host, Si. Here at ACE Podcast Nation, we've got podcasts, series and shows, all types of subjects, with regular series on mental health, conspiracy theories, the serial killer files, the podcast with no name, which is our films and TV show, wrestling, and of course we have a weekly football show, the Andy Campbell Championship show, should I say, which is out every Wednesday. It's focused on the Sky Bet Championship, news and results with former Premier League and Championship striker Andy Campbell providing the insight and expert analysis. We also have got interviews and guests on all sorts of stuff, including actors, musicians, wrestlers, fighters, pretty much any subject that's interesting. We're happy to do a show on it. Go find all the shows in video format at youtube.com/Ace Podcast Nation. Also available in audio download at Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and every other podcasting app and catcher under the sun. Don't forget, also, we've got our popular series, Unscripted and Uncensored, where you, the people, send in the questions, topics for my guest and I to discuss. These shows are a lot of fun, can go off the rails pretty quick, because I have no control over the subjects. So far, we've had Roderick Giggs, MMA fighter or former MMA fighter Lee Remedios, Away Day Apparel owner Alan Jones, and of course my co-host for today's show, former Cage Warriors Featherweight Champion and British MMA legend, Mr. Danny Batten. Welcome, Danny. Doing, mate?
We're back again.
Back again, indeed. Back for another show, and it's going to be semi-regular one now with these UFC shows come relatively quick. There's at least once a month, so
yeah, that's thick and fast these days.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was thinking when we first discussed it, it was like, oh, should we do one for every show? And then we realised that it was like every week there's some sort of UFC show. I can't do that. I mean, I'm not supposed to record on Sundays, so my missus would be furious if I turned around and said every Sunday. But it was a pretty interesting show with some good fights, knockouts and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll go through the main card now, fight by fight, with Danny providing some technical insights and analysis. And we'll get into the action. Just one last plug from the sponsor of the episode quickly before we get into it. Today's show is brought to you by Away Day Apparel. Away Day Apparel is a group of casually obsessed football fans looking to bring something different to the wardrobes of like-minded people. With football, music, and weekend partying high on the agenda, they aim to bring something exclusive products. They are edgy, controversial, but most importantly current, from t-shirts, polos, shorts to hoodies, jackets and accessories. Stick with them, and they aim to bring you terrace wear that will turn heads and provide the cutting-edge look we all crave. Okay, so that's the plugs done and dusted. Let's get into the good stuff. So UFC 243 last night from the Marvel Stadium in Melbourne, Australia. Massive crowd. I think they announced it at just over 57,000, which is
that's impressive.
It's the highest attendance for an MMA event. I think the previous record was 56,200 odd, which was Ronda Rousey and Holly Holm.
Wow, so you're going back quite a long time.
Quite a while. So
yeah.
50 shows. And when you think, how UFC just seems to grow and grow and grow, doesn't it? But so I'm quite surprised that it's taken that long for them to break the record. But I suppose there's only so many stadiums which are equipped to do an MMA event and fit that many people in. But 56,000 is a big amount.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think they're basing, they're wanting figures on the pay-per-views and stuff. I think that's where the money comes in for UFC.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a weird one. Obviously, for us in the UK, I don't know about you, but I don't tend to watch them live anymore because I just can't. I haven't got the staying power to stay up all night. The very few where I try to stay up and watch them, I fall asleep by about 2:00. I just old for it now, so I end up watching it in the morning over a cup of coffee.
Yeah, you're the same as me. I watch it on the Sundays, as it normally is.
And I think if you we both got kids. It's like if you stay up till 4 or 5 in the morning watching UFC or whatnot, or boxing or whatever, your kids still wake up at 6:00, still want their breakfast and still want you up and about. So I mean, quite happy to watch them in the morning these days. Yeah, it was. I thought it was overall. I thought it was a pretty good show. I thought compared to perhaps some previous UFC cards, it wasn't a massively strong card full of like big names, if you like.
Yeah,
Obviously, the main event was a big one,
yeah,
and there were some interesting fights as opposed to, you know, like your kind of your super names or your big star names.
sure.
The Australian audience or the crowd there, they were well into it. They were really
Yeah,
good.
yeah. They really support their fighters. You can see that, and just by the attendance, like you pointed out.
It makes a big difference as well when the crowd's into it. It just makes a whole difference to the overall viewing of the the fights. Because if the crowd are sort of getting a bit frustrated because there's a lot of grappling and there's not much striking going on, it kind of can get some distracting sometimes.
Sure.
Okay, so the first fight was I'm going to probably butcher some of these names now, so I apologize in advance. Jurgen De Castro versus Justin Taffer was finished in the first round, 2 minutes 10, via KO punch or a right overhand punch. And
Was that on the main card? Was it?
yeah, that
might
was
have been
the
one.
first fight of the main card. That one was.
Oh, I might have actually missed that one.
Right,
That's
okay.
a good start, isn't it?
Yeah, there we go.
I got 4 down on the main card.
Right, okay. So you've got the Lima fight as the first one, have you?
Yeah. That's what I
No,
had down.
that's the second one. But I mean, to be honest with you,
like we was talking before, I had a real busy day going into work and everything, and I got back and quickly looked through them. That's why I threw you that message.
yeah. No, I just thought that's fine.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, it was a quick fight. It was over in 2 minutes, and I mean, the crowd was with Taffer big time.
Yeah.
They had a wild striking exchange, and then De Castro cracked him with a big uppercut and then an overhand right as Taffer was pushing forward, and he went stiff as a board. And it was one of those KOs where you could see his toes curling, his eyes glazed. He was not getting up. And to be fair, the crowd straight away, they were applauding De Castro. They appreciated the skills, even though their fighter had lost in quite decisive fashion. They gave him a real ovation. It was certainly an interesting fight to kick off the.
I've actually got it on now on my other tablet as we speak, so I'm curious. I'm just watching them slug it out now. Yeah, it doesn't look too hugely technical. Oh no, I'll just see the finish.
No, there was a couple of minutes of slugfest. I mean,
it was a good job.
Go on.
I was going to say it was a good job I didn't miss a super technical one. There's not a lot to be said about that one.
Yeah. That's it. I think I can take the couple of punches. I'm all right with that. It's when it starts getting into technical, into BJJ and stuff. That's when I need you to provide the proper stuff. So look, it was a hell of a KO, and it's a big stage for both these guys.
Yeah.
And for De Castro, it may have only been a short fight, but he looked impressive. And
I'm just going through it again now. I mean, this was just a slugfest. I mean, they was wanting to put each other away quick, and
it wasn't 3 rounds. Was not going 3 rounds like that one.
No.
Be interesting to see who they put him up against next, because he's won it in decisive fashion on the big show, opening up the show as well, and it got the crowd going as well. First fight of the show, and then away they go. So the next fight was Luke Jumo versus Diego Lima. It's a very interesting fight.
Now that one was quite interesting because I've come out at a really slow pace. A really tentative pace. Now I think personally, Luke should have pushed the pace on him because he looked a little bit fragile at times. He got clipped. Do you remember seeing Lima get clipped? And it took his legs away from him momentarily. It didn't look like a particularly hard shot. So you got to wonder whether he does a big weight cut because he's big at the weight. And I would have liked to see him push forward a little bit, but he just seemed to stay on the outside a little bit too long. So whenever they did exchange, Lima was, just throwing back in little flurries and able to shake him off each time. But yeah, it just didn't push the pace on Lima. That's what I felt. He just took too much damage in the long run.
Yeah, and I think like even in the last round when I thought Lima was clearly up 2 rounds, 2 rounds up going into the final round, you felt like even if Luke could just push him a bit, you never you never know in a fight anyway. But I just like you say, he did look like he could be susceptible if he put him under a bit of pressure, but perhaps he didn't. Didn't quite put him under pressure.
Yeah, I was really surprised about it. Obviously, he was giving away height. He's giving away some reach. So, pressing close was something that was on the agenda physically, but it just didn't seem to push forward as much as I thought he would, especially when he started dropping down the rounds. You would have thought there would be more urgency.
Yeah.
And I think I heard his corner, going into the final round saying, don't rush in, and which was kind of strange to me. You would be thinking, you've got to lay it all out there now and try to put something on this guy, because there definitely was a seeming chink in the armor of Lima in that I see him get rocked, and he didn't like it when he was coming forward. Lima started really backpedaling, but he just didn't seem to, I don't know, maybe want it enough.
Yeah, it's a strange one because the thing is, like, I thought Lima's leg kicks were brutal. They were really strong.
At the beginning.
And they seemed to take a bit out of Luke. By the end of the first round, you could see he was limping, and by midway through the second, it was really affected him. But equally, like you say, whenever he did push forward, Lima was going back straight away. So you would have liked to have seen what would have happened if he could have clipped him a couple of times. But
and he could have perhaps taken the sting out of those kicks by shooting him with those takedowns a little bit more. It's quite exasperating for these strikers when you press them in the wrestling. Trying to fight them down, even if you don't get them down, just pressing them up against the fence, leaning on them a little bit. Just to so you take that little bit of sting out their strikes. But it just didn't do that enough. Stayed on the outside. He allowed Lima to dictate the pace, which obviously he likes that comfortable sit back, almost like a Thai style where you kind of stood in front of each other a little bit. It's almost like a gentleman bout. And and he's going to come out the winner in that scenario because of the height and the reach that he had. And doing that early damage with those low kicks, which are so popular now in UFC. You're seeing these calf kicks come into the equation so often, and they've really put someone out of commission pretty quick. And that was a classic example of it right there. But he only landed, a few at the beginning, and then he started backpedaling, like I say. And I was really surprised that didn't give Luke the confidence to maybe, follow it up a little bit and dig deep to at least show that he really wants it and wants to be in there. And never looked like he felt he was going to win it.
Yeah, I mean, you for casual fans or people who've like myself who've never sort of done any sort of fighting, MMA or any martial arts, like just how much can a good leg kicks take it out of a fighter from a just in terms of how it affects the rest of your game going into the fight.
Yeah. Well, I think we're seeing these calf kicks. For one, the result of landing a good one is very apparent very quickly. It makes it obviously difficult for the guy who likes to come in with his hands. It kind of makes the scenario a little bit difficult if you're giving up some reach. It makes it really difficult for the guy with the reach deficit to come in. You have to try to step in with that lead leg, obviously, and that's the one that you're trying to attack if you're trying to defend your range. And he really fell foul of that, but fell foul of it just purely because he was stood in front of him. I don't know what his game plan. I would like to have known what perhaps his game plan was at the beginning to be standing in front of him like that, because I don't think a shot was thrown in any meaningful way for a good while. There was really sizing up each other's range. Very strange start to a UFC. Very strange start, but and he wasn't leg slipping. It just wasn't like he made adjustments to it. So okay, the strategy never changed. It seemingly, didn't really push any harder, but he wasn't changing his defense up. He kept on just lifting the leg up and try to ride the kick, but the damage had already been done, unfortunately for him. But I would have liked to have perhaps seen a leg slip. Maybe his leg was too injured to shin block, but certainly see him slip out of it or fight in the opposite stance more effectively would have been good.
Yeah, so if a fighter gets hurt by those low kicks early on in a fight, if you're coaching, what would you be telling them? Would you tell them to check the kicks, or would you be telling them to go for more of a takedown or something like that?
Once your lower leg has been injured like that, you probably was not in any frame of mind or in a kind of physical shape to shin block once the leg had been damaged in that way. But certainly, at least defensively, seeing a leg slip, slipping his stance or fighting in the opposite stance. Something that I push my guys to do is to learn to fight both ways. And not only can it be a good strategical thing to do, but it can also be a good thing to do regards keeping you in the fight if you do get a damaged lead leg. But I didn't see adjustments.
No, his game plan stayed the same through all 3 rounds. And like you mentioned about him staying very much in front of Lima, he didn't change the angles. He didn't go for a takedown. He kind of just stood where Lima wanted him. I mean, if you'd asked me before, where does Lima want this fight? And I would have said he wants it face to face. Stood up. He probably wouldn't have wanted to go to the ground. He wouldn't have wanted to, really get down and dirty and go into a strike, and he would have liked to have done it from distance.
Well, just going back to your original question you asked, what would I like to see? Well, a lead leg slip would have been good to get that leg out of damage and get it out of harm's way, and then perhaps doing that leg slip and doing a little charge of shots to try and shoot in, try and get that crutch hold into a single, crutch into a single, then double maybe. Just get him up against the fence and try and work some of that explosive kicking out of his game. But he got him backpedaling, which is a great opportunity for you to shoot in, and the shoot just didn't happen frequently enough or committed enough. But he might have been putting a brave face on that. Maybe he was a lot hurt than we realised, and he just didn't feel that he had it in him to chase forward.
Yeah, I guess they lose a bit of their kind of explosive, like the push, and whether it's for a takedown or kicks or anything, everything comes through your hips and your legs, doesn't it? So if you have got that damaged leg, it can make it difficult. I got to ask you, because I couldn't believe my eyes and ears when I heard the decision read, when it was a split decision. Jesus
absolutely.
Christ.
I mean,
but that's why
I know.
That's why fighters. It's so dangerous if you go into that last round thinking, "Oh, I'm 2 rounds up. I'm just gonna, take it easy." Not that Lima particularly did, but I mean. How many times do you see fighters sit back in that 3rd round?
Sure. Different judges judge things differently. I guess we can only say, we're all human. We all see different things within a fight. If you read a reading book, we all read into things and things stick out in your mind more about one part of the book over another, depending on who's reading it. But with this, obviously people were seeing different things in the fight, and I can only but think that one of the judges saw the fact that Lima was backpedaling a lot in one of the rounds, that he scored it against him. But that was absolutely shocking.
You could even see Luke's reaction when they read if you watch it again, when they read the scores, even he is like bemused by that, because he knew he'd lost all 3 rounds.
Absolutely.
And even he couldn't believe it. And you just think, I do wonder sometimes about these, the judges, what they're seeing.
Absolutely. I mean, it was confusing. I don't know whether they actually ever released the actual scorecards and how the judges score it. I don't know whether they actually do that. If they don't, they perhaps should.
I think they read. They read out the scores, but I don't think they say which judge. Which judge did it. I didn't make a note of them. Otherwise, I should have really. But
it must be worrying for fighters, because you just
it's gotta be.
You don't know where you are in the fight. I mean, regards who's in whose corner, you get a sense of where your man is in the fight. But with judging like that, it's got to make you wonder where you are at any time in the fight.
Well, yeah, I mean, I forget which fight it was last year that I watched a fight. I forgot, I completely can't remember who it was. But this guy was going into the 3rd round, or the final round it was. I think it might have been the 5th round. And he was 3 rounds to 1 down, possibly 4 down. You know, he was clearly losing the fight, and his corner was telling him to, you know, just keep it tight in this round. Don't take any risks. And it was like, well, you're thinking, no, he needs to do the opposite to that. He needs to take some risks, because otherwise he could potentially lose this round, you know, 5 rounds to 0. And it, like you say, everyone sees fights differently. And I think the best fighters are the ones who've got the best corners also, who can read the fight. They can change their plans during a fight. And maybe
it's
Luke
good to have some
fight.
kind of experience going on in your corner, for those rounds that perhaps are a little bit unclear, to voice to your man, you know, whether you think he's really ahead or not. But you know, one of the things that we try to put in place when we're training guys in our camp is, you know, get ahead, stay ahead. Very, very rarely will you ever have a strategy to, you know, lay on your laurels and let a round go, then make a late charge. Very, very few times you would ever have that strategy in place. But we very much want to establish in the first round dominance, and you try and stay ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess wherever possible, you don't want to be relying on scorecards, because you just,
that's right. Yeah,
that's proven. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely scary. Especially being it's the UFC. I mean, this is the show where everyone wants to get. You know, this is the ultimate place to show your skills, and to think that it can be tainted by bad judges, is pretty bad. I mean, you've got the ref in as well. Sometimes you get bad decisions on the ref stopping fights early, etc., or in fact late. But the judges, they should really have their act together. I don't know what the score is with it sometimes.
Well, the thing is, I suppose as well, is with UFC, it's not just the fighters who are trying to aim to get there because it's the top of the game, but it's the referees, the judges, it's everyone, the commentators. Everybody wants to get there because that's the pinnacle of the sport, if you like. And when you see judging like this, and like you mentioned, over the last year or two, there's been some really suspect refereeing decisions. It makes you wonder, what's going on? Because I just could not see. Like, I take into account what you said about maybe it was where he was backing off a bit, but I thought Lima clearly won every round.
Yeah. I mean, I know that part of the equation of who wins a round is done on how you dominate the cage with your footwork and presence. But when Lima was backpedaling, there was nothing really coming at him in terms of effective attack. That's just as much as doing a takedown, doing nothing with it, and the guy scrambles up after 5-10 seconds. It's not really going to score in any heavy way because there was no damage done. There was no productivity done with that good position. So as much as he's backpedaling, there's got to be something regards the attack coming forward to make him backpedal, to make that score, surely.
Yeah, I think so. So the next fight was Tai Tuivasa versus Sergei Spivak. I really enjoyed this fight, I got to say.
Right.
Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, as you say these, I click on them. So
cool.
I can watch them play by as we talk.
So I thought Tuivasa started really well. He dropped Spivak with a nice leg kick before landing a couple of shots.
Yeah. He was looking really convincing in the first sort of like 30 seconds to a minute. So much power on those kicks. But what I noticed Sergey did, if you notice, after he received a couple of those leg kicks, he leg slipped one of them. And that meant he had his timing down. That means he had a response. He adjusted to the timing of that kick. And then he started catching the kick and taking him down. So it was really, really good to see that Sergey adjust his strategy and started turning what was ultimately being successful of his opponent to then turning it against him. And it just seemed that he didn't learn his lesson. He kept throwing that leg kick and then got himself taken down. And then it started to show a pattern. I mean, some of those takedowns were really good. There was real. I think it's got his Sambo base, isn't it? That he's got really nice, hip tosses, flipping straight over, and unusually on the ground going for scarf holds, which you don't see very often.
Yeah, his takedowns were so quick as well. They weren't just strong. They were so quick. He was over. He was over and down within seconds. And funny enough, what we've just talked about with the first fight with Lima is Luke didn't, he didn't adapt as the fight went along, whereas Sergei Spivak adapted within probably 2 minutes of the fight starting.
That's right. Yeah, very, very quickly he changed it up. He showed a defensive adjustment in the lead leg slip, and then he showed a counter adjustment by slipping back and catching that kick. But with Luke, what we saw was instead of him having his foot down, receiving the full-on impact of that shin kick, he just tried to lift his leg up and ride the kick, which means you're still receiving some of the consequence of that kick, and you can't counter off it. If you lift your leg up and your leg gets kicked away, you can't come in for a takedown, you can't counter strike, you're just receiving and surviving. And that's the pattern that got set for that fight, and what happened. But this one was different.
Yeah, and I think what Spivak did as well, very well, is as I mentioned, I was impressed with the speed of his takedowns, but I thought he also showed a lot of power in his takedowns. There was one where he literally just dragged him to the floor.
Absolutely, yeah. And what you'll realise is as well, there's a fair old bit of weight difference between these two. I mean, one weighed in at 264, that Tavasa weighed in at 264, and Sergey weighed in at 233. I mean, that's a fair bit of weight difference right there. And he threw him like he was a feather at times. Really nailed those throws.
He did, yeah. And that first round was a strange one because like you say, the first couple of minutes, Tavasa was so he started off sharp and he started
very
off
explosive.
Really, yeah, I think that's the perfect word, explosive. But then by the end of the round, I thought Spivak won the round quite comfortably. Not like a 10-8 comfortably, but there was a clear winner.
Sure. Yeah. There was a couple of sticky moments still. I mean, again, I think it was to do with this weight advantage that he had. He did get taken down several times in that first round, but he kept going for that scarf hold. I think it was because of the way he was throwing him. He was doing a head and arm throw, which making him land into that scarf hold. But just the weight and the power to Vasa allowed him to keep scrambling back to the feet. But that takes a lot of energy to scramble back up to your feet, particularly when you're a big man like he is. And then he got taken down again very quickly, then again. And each time he got taken down, it's taken him that little bit longer to get back up. And of course, he was less explosive on his feet. He's unable to do as much damage. And the tide, after a while, began to tell on him as that pattern started to ensue throughout the rounds.
So, like, as a fighter, I think sometimes people, again, I go back to like myself or people who have never had any experience with fighting. I think people don't realize how much it takes out of you to be taken down and have the full body weight of someone on top of you.
Sure.
And you've got to not just maneuver your own body up from from underneath, but you've also got the full weight of your opponent on you.
Of course.
Like, just could you sort of give us a bit of insight or describe like just how much it does take out of a fighter in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to go down to where that comfort zone is for that fighter. So if you're a guy that's mainly striking based and you've learnt your ground to be more defensive and you're more scrambling up, being on the ground could be an uncomfortable affair, and there's a lot of anxieties to be had. And but for a skilled practitioner on the ground, even though they can be underneath, it's an area that they're really comfortable with, and it doesn't stress them. So it really does depend on what your background is, and of course you get your well-rounded guys. But yeah, it is difficult to go from ground to being stood, partly because when you're grappling or you're wrestling, your muscles are getting filled with used blood, and it can make you feel a little heavy. So if you do manage to scramble back to your feet, it's almost like you just want to shake your arms off and shake your legs, but you don't have the time to do so. So it can be quite exasperating.
Yeah, that must take a lot of energy, particularly if you've got a bigger opponent to to scramble from underneath or to get them off you and then get back up. That must must use up a lot of explosive energy just to be able to get back to your feet in some cases.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it is. And it's never over when you scramble back up to your feet. You're either going to get clinched up again, wrestled up again, or you're being struck at. So that's the beauty and the cruelty of MMA, I guess you would say. There's just nowhere where you're safe from potentially receiving your strike. So you're trying to scramble to your feet, which takes 2 arms, 2 legs to do so, and you've got someone trying to throw down punches and hard as they can elbows. It's definitely a difficult scenario, getting up off your back, trying to get back to your feet. It's a anxiety type situation.
Yeah. So round two, to begin with, Spivak attacked Tivasa with an overhand right, and then he attacked him with some jabs. So he was quite quick into the strikes, and then he took up a half guard. Tivasa gets up, he cracks him with a big elbow strike, which
that's what he did.
For a second, I thought that was gonna. He looked like he had rocked just for a split second. Looked like he had rocked him a little bit, and Tivasa then started attacking with some kicks. But then they kind of exchanged a few rights, both of them, and that seemed to help Spivak just get to grips with maybe. I feel like it's strange to say, but being able to exchange with his own strikes after the elbow strike and the leg kick.
He was happy to strike.
Yeah,
so Sergey was now knowing that he could take it down pretty much whenever he really needed to. And so, of course, he could strike with a little bit more confidence because he knew if anything come back meaningful back, he's got that shooting shot to take him down. And he did. He got taken down a fair old few times when you add up over the course of the duration of that fight. And I think that's what gave him the confidence and made him relax and throw back those shots. You know, it just opened up those takedowns to be even more clear for him.
Yeah, and I think as well, I suppose the confidence which Sergey Spivak got from knowing that you could take him down at any point must also give his opponent quite a lot of anxiety because he's always looking out for that takedown, but he's also obviously got to watch out for the big strikes because he's a big dude.
Sure.
And it puts them in two frames of mind, and then I suppose that's where mistakes happen. Spivak scored another takedown on Tuivasa, and he gets the side control. He gains the full mount.
That's right. He got his knees completely together, which goes to show a little bit of lack of know-how for Tuivasa. I mean, having your knees caught together like he did was not a great showing of his wrestling defense skills. And that's why he was taken down so easily with that one. And like you say, mounted, because once his knees were together, they never really came apart and he just slipped over into that mount position. It started to be a slippery slope to defeat thereafter. Yeah. But if you actually have a look when he was mounted, he never really had his feet on the floor. His feet were left poking up in the air. It didn't even look like he was trying with his lower body to escape up anymore. It's like he kind of quit a little bit. I think he got cut on the eye maybe, or he got quite badly cut, didn't he, from one of the elbow strikes. And it kind of like just knocked the life out of him a little bit. It's almost like he was looking for that way out.
Yeah, like you often see when fighters get in that position where their opponent is trying to mount them, get into full mount, you'll see them sort of rocking their hips and they're really trying to explode from their hips to get out from underneath. And you're right, you didn't see that from him. His legs were just sort of there in the air. And like you say, he had his knees together, and it wasn't long after that. Spivak got the ground and pound, and then I really liked the way he got into the arm triangle choke. He kind of pulled away from it, didn't he? And then he went into it as he turned.
Yeah.
And
to be honest, Tuivasa made it easy for him. He was laying on his side. The only time you got to go on your side when you're on your back or in your mounted position is to push for half guard and try and scramble up. But he didn't. He's kind of loitered on his side with his feet not connected to the floor. And of course, you're asking to be arm triangled. Normally, to try and do an arm triangle when someone's square down and you're trying to do it, it's a little bit hard to prep up. But when someone's got their shoulder high like that, they're going to start burying in real deep. So he kind of like, added to the effect of it by having bad positioning on the ground. He didn't behave properly in that mount position that he was put into.
Yeah, and once the arm triangle choke was in, it wasn't long. The fight finished 3 minutes 14 into round 2, and I thought it was a pretty convincing display by Sergey Spivak, and obviously Tai Tuivasa was I don't think he will be after last night. Was ranked number 14, so it's a big win for Sergey.
Definitely, and like so one thing I liked about him is the fact that he adjusted himself on the job. He took two really big leg kicks, and he adjusted so quickly, not just offensively but counter-offensively, and that impressed me. The fact that he changed up his game from the get-go, and I very much like those type of takedowns. You don't see him like that, which really, to be honest, he probably got to display really good takedowns because of the lack of wrestling capability it seemed from Tavasa. But yeah, I'm looking forward to see what Sergey's got to offer against someone perhaps with a little bit more rounded game. See whether he could carry on doing that type of takedown, that kind of ground dominance.
Yeah, and I mean, like you say, what was impressive was that his adjustment didn't seem to come from his coaching staff or his corner. It came from him.
Yes, absolutely.
His fight brain, in the moment, straight away. Within seconds, really. With having those leg kicks, he adjusted what he needed to do.
Sure.
And like you say, both defensively and from the counter-attacking point of view as well.
Yes.
Just quickly to finish off on this fight, I'm just keen for people who are maybe, particularly some of my listeners who listen to the other podcasts who are checking this out, maybe a sort of casual MMA fans. You mentioned that Spivak was going for the scarf choke.
Yes.
What's the differences between a scarf choke and something like an arm triangle choke?
Okay, arm triangle chokes and triangle chokes and things like that are predominantly all to do with the neck, either restricting the airway or the blood flow. But when you get a scarf hold one, it's they pull up and put their weight down on your chest, so it makes you not be able to open up your lungs, if you will.
Okay.
It sort of really compresses you. When you get someone who can do it well, it's really not a comfortable experience. Yeah, so if you get someone who knows how to put their weight well across your chest as they pull up on your head, it's kind of just suffocating in a whole different way. It's almost like someone's putting a bag over your head as well as trying to choke you, sort of thing. It's you
not pleasant.
Yeah, you could sort of breathe in a little bit, but it's like you got this really heavy weight on your chest as well. Yeah, it's
cool.
Yeah, it's a nice move if you know how to pull it off. But not many people can hold that scarf of control as well as he did. But he did lose control a few times. It's not a position that is considered the most dominant in terms of control. Yes, it has its submission opportunities there, but regards to that scarf hold choke, if you're running out of energy, you're going to be in trouble if they start putting up that kind of finish on you.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, you don't see a great deal of fighters go for it. Really, it's not. You'll see like arm triangle chokes regularly, but it's not a move that you'll see on every UFC event or every event.
Yeah, partly because of the like I say about the control aspect. You literally have just got the head and the arm, and the consequence of holding that position wrong can potentially be your back being taken.
Yeah.
You might have heard the cornerman. I heard them call for it several times to try and step over his leg to try to expose him and either come up top or come to his back. But he wasn't responding to that. He just didn't have the know-how how to get out of those holds.
No,
he kind of muscled his way out a little bit. But overall, I'm impressed with that performance. I would like to see whether he can perform that kind of ground skill and those kind of takedowns on someone with a little better wrestling, a little better grappling, and see what he's got to offer then. I hope they look after him. I hope they give him a realistic fight and not throw him to the dogs straight away. I'd like to see him build up his confidence in UFC.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see him perhaps, get another ranked fighter, but don't need to go and chuck him like number 2 or number 3 in the world. Just to give him, I think Tuivasa was number 14. Give him number 12 or number 13. Give him
That's right.
Give him a realistic fight, which is going to be test his skills, rather than, like you say, chuck him to the wolves.
Yeah.
So next up was one of my favorite current fighters to watch, which is Dan Hooker.
Yes.
Iaquinta versus Dan Hooker. So on paper, particularly, again, I'll go back to for casual fans, they would have looked at it and they would have seen Iaquinta, number 6 in the world, Dan Hooker, number 15 in the world. Iaquinta beat Kevin Lee comfortably.
That's right.
He beat. He did very well against Khabib.
Yes, I mean he took that short notice, didn't he? That Khabib match.
And he did exceptionally well.
He did do
better
well.
than a lot of people have done.
Yeah.
So people would have looked at that perhaps on paper, and they would have thought, oh, Iaquinta should take this. But Dan Hooker is the real deal.
Oh, absolutely. And he was a big guy at that weight as well. Can you believe this guy actually fought featherweight, I believe, didn't he fight featherweight back along?
I think he did, yeah.
Yeah.
So I read that earlier, actually, yeah.
He's a big dude. And, we're seeing these calf kicks being part of the equation that led to Quintus' demise in the end. And lack of adjustment, absolute lack of adjustment. I would have been calling for some kind of takedown after seeing that his leg was in trouble. I think his cornerman did even ask for that, but there was not enough takedown attempt, and he was getting broken up bit by bit. I mean, his face was kind of getting messy, wasn't it, as the rounds progressed as well? But that first round was horrible for him, really horrible for him.
I was going to ask you, actually. Go on. I was just going to say quickly, before we go into some of the moments from the rounds, you just mentioned in the previous fight as well about the corner speaking to the fighters. How difficult is it for the fighters to hear what the corner is saying in the fights when it's in a big event like that where the crowd's quite loud and there's TV and...
I mean, the fighters can hear. I mean, I used to listen to my corner a lot. Whenever I give one of my fighters a little prep up on how I do the corner or how I intend to do the cornering for them on that particular bout, I always say to them, I'm only ever going to suggest ideas, but I'm not in there, I'm not feeling it. You don't have to do as I say. You've got to feel it. It's a little bit like going down for that snooker shot. You draw back your cue several times, and you deliver the strike on that ball when it just feels right. So sometimes you just feed an idea. The fighters certainly can hear, but not all the time.
I have always wondered that.
Yeah, not all the time. Either the fighter can't do it because he physically feels that he can't, or mentally perhaps feel that he can't.
So is that a common thing where you said, like, you to your fighters, you say it more of a suggestion? Is that what most corners, do you think, do? They sort of use it as a suggestion rather than do this, do that?
I think everyone does it different initially. I mean, that's just my take on it. That I suggest an idea. I think sometimes you get a cornerman almost like puppet masters. They want it done their way, no other way, and perhaps they'll develop their fighter to literally do it nigh on every instruction that they say from the corner. I don't think that's a recipe for success. I think ultimately you should be educating your fighter to be able to ride himself on his own in there if need be. And like I say, you're just that added little voice. You're seeing things from a different perspective when you're outside the fight. Sometimes when you're in it, you perhaps feel like, oh, that was a close round. Maybe I think I won that. And the cornerman say, hey, you know what? No, you didn't. There wasn't enough work rate. Sometimes I think I fell foul of losing my first rounds because of lack of work rate. And sometimes it took my cornerman to say, hey, you know what, Dan, not bad round, but you weren't winning that round. Much more work rate now. You've definitely got to have a cornerman that's going to be real with you and not be a yes man with you.
Yeah, I suppose that's the last thing you want, is you need to know what's going on to you from their point of view. So the round begins with the fighters swinging straight away at each other. Hooker starts attacking Iaquinta with those leg kicks straight away. Being common through all the fights. Iaquinta nails a swinging Hooker with a counter left.
That's right.
And then he nails Hooker again with a right. And at that point, I was like, oh, okay, Iaquinta, he's always game for a striking battle. And then suddenly Hooker just started landing some combinations. He briefly dropped in with a leg kick. Then Iaquinta looked for the takedown, which to me was an indication that the leg kick hurt, because he went straight to the takedown. And I just thought, he's hurt him there, because it wasn't natural.
He picked up the leg low, didn't he? He picked up the leg low and kind of went into a single leg, but he went in with his head to the outside. And the issue you're going to have against someone who's got a lot more height than you is the fact that they can block your head and reach around you, which is what happened. I mean, he ended up having his back taken with the body triangle. And, perhaps a little bit of lack of know-how on the ground. You know, he had his body triangle with his, I'll call it the knot where the legs are tied, was facing up. You know, he should have had that going down to try to stand a better chance of getting out of position. He didn't make the correct adjustments on the ground. So, you know, yeah, there was mistakes aplenty, and you know, it started to show up again in going against him round after round.
Yeah, because he when he got hit with the leg kick, which sort of briefly dropped him, he went for that takedown, and straight away Hooker was able to nail him with a ton of elbow strikes.
That's right.
Yeah, and then he went into the body lock.
Yeah,
I think it was.
Yeah, the body triangle did on him.
And then Hooker winds up getting full mount on Iaquinta, and you're thinking this could be over quickly.
Yeah,
he had back control.
It was not the kind of first round you want.
No.
You know, he was both hurt and lost the round badly. So he had to make major tactical and strategical changes for round two, and they just didn't come. You know,
no.
He was hurt, and carried on getting hurt. He started getting banged up in the face. Yeah, it's painful to watch because, you know, I really like his style. I would like to have seen him have a little bit more success. It looks all too easy for Dan Hooker, but you know, that's not to his opponent's detriment. You know, they're both very, very good fighters, but Dan Hooker is on the way up. I think he could be a proper contender soon.
Yeah, he looks real strong in
several
aspects of his fighting. Just before the end of round one, Hooker dropped him again with another leg kick. And then as we go into round two, Hooker starts out peppering Iaquinta with jabs, and Iaquinta's getting a bit busted open, and he's looking a bit. He looked. I don't know if shocked is the right word, but he didn't look comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
He was still coming forward, which is what he does. You know, he does every fight. He keeps coming.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, this guy's tough. He's a fighter, without a doubt. But you know, fighters feel pain, and it was really interfering with the way he could come forward. He was clearly having issues, and it's almost like he was just hoping to slug it out and catch him with something, and hoping to catch him with something was just not happening. You know, he had a big problem with the physicality difference in height and reach. He was struggling with compromised footwork and footwork ability with that injured leg. Just made it even more of a harder situation to use those hands to try and do damage and maybe even come in for that shoot. It was a difficult conquest for him after that first round.
Yes, and Iaquinta started the second round coming forwards, and he had some swings at Hooker, and then as he charged in towards Hooker, he dropped him with a leg kick again.
Yes, he did.
And it did look like he was struggling a bit. Iaquinta sort of backed up with a couple of rights, kept coming, but Hooker was. I felt like by the middle of the second round, or even like early second round, Hooker looked comfortable and confident.
Yeah, I'll tell you when the confidence really become a difficulty for Iaquinta was when he shot in for the legs and he didn't bring his feet under him. So, you know, if you think about lifting up anything regards any kind of weight, you want to get your feet and your hips underneath and you lift with a straight back. He was actually diving forwards. He couldn't bring his feet in under him. That leg was so compromised at that point. And he goes down on all fours on several occasions. And that's when you know an athlete's really in trouble. It was just a deficit step too far for him with that leg.
Yeah, so I mean, when he's going for that takedown and he's not in the correct position, is that like a desperation thing from a point of view where he's hurt? You know, he's been hit in the face a few times. He's got damage to the leg, or is it more of a fatigue and damage and a sort of combination of it all?
This was not a fatigue issue. He wasn't tired. He was just hurt. His leg was giving him so much trouble. He couldn't keep his feet underneath him on the shoot. His leg just wasn't responding. You know, I've had some nasty leg kicks over the years that go low on the shin, and the workings of your footwork just are not there. Your brain just can't make you do what you want to do. So he was trying to modify it by diving into the legs, but yeah, you're not going to take a UFC caliber fighter down by diving at his legs like that. You have to bring your feet in with you. But that's all he had left to do. So it just goes to show that he still wanted to find a way to win.
His body just wasn't
like I
doing
say,
what he wanted.
that deficit to the leg was just a step too far for him, really was. And I didn't like how he kept going to that single with his head on the outside. I saw it numerous times. If he went up on the inside, it would have given him options to attach himself to the second left or go for crutch lifts. He would have had a longer duration of control. But he went with that single with his leg on the outside, and yeah, against someone with that long body composition, that could get you in trouble. Indeed, it did for him several times.
Yeah, I guess, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but by going on the outside, he opens himself up more for strikes and for everything. Just more damage.
Yeah.
So in like training and coaching, would they always coach it to go the other way? Or
Yeah,
would
I
it
mean,
depend?
initially, if you're going to go on a single leg with crutch or a single, you have your head on the inside, and then you can run it down to the outside as you trying to smash down on that single leg, and you run the pipe, so to speak. So it's okay to run your head to the outside when you're already compromising their base and balance, but to shoot in with your head on the outside before that, you kind of get your head stuffed, and like what was happening with Iaquinta, he was getting that longer body frame. He was reaching round and going round to his back and grabbing at his ankles. It was perhaps not the best choice of takedown for him.
No, and just towards the end of the second round, Hooker sort of pounced on it, and Iaquinta, as he was down, he hit him with some strikes. Iaquinta just tried to roll him up for an ankle lock as the round ended.
Yeah, he went for a thing called deep half guard to attack his base and balance, and this is, this was his one and only big chance. He went all out for that heel hook. It was actually quite a nice setup that he did, and at least it goes to show that he was trying everything within his arsenal to get the win, and that was about the only fleeting chance that I saw that he could have trying to put this fight away. But did you see Dan Hooker's expression when he knew he weren't in trouble in the big scheme? He'd obviously training with guys that have got leg lock games. He's probably been put in that situation many times in training, and clearly was not perturbed by it. But still respect for Iaquinta for trying to set it up and prep it up. It took some skill to prep, considering what kind of situation he was in at that time.
Yeah, and the damage he'd taken as well. It takes a lot to be able to do that. Obviously, he knew he was losing the fight comfortably. So like you say, he was reaching into all aspects of his arsenal. The third round began with Hooker coming forward. He took a few swings at Iaquinta. Hooker goes back to attacking Iaquinta with those leg kicks again. Hooker goes for a high kick. Iaquinta blocked it. Iaquinta charged at Hooker while swinging at him, and Hooker nailed him with a swinging elbow strike. Again, quite a nice elbow strike, which didn't rock him, but just you could see it just for that split second that it hurt. He
started mixing up his strikes, which goes to show he was feeling really comfortable in there. He started thinking out of the normal box and started to bring other things into the equation. I mean, that's a sign of feeling comfortable right there.
Yeah, and even as the fight was coming to an end, Iaquinta was still hunting those takedowns. Iaquinta was coming forward. He cracks Hooker with like a short right and then a swinging. He hits a swinging Hooker with a left. And they finished the round swinging away at each other, but I felt like I was a little bit disappointed with Iaquinta from a performance point of view. Yeah, but you can't fault his balls and his heart. It's just he's proper fighter, isn't he?
Sure. UFC do really bring the toughest of humanity into the octagon. They really do. And he's a great example of that. In terms of his courageousness and will to stay in there and try and win, you can't knock him for that. He made it still look like a fight. He was in it. He tried to hunt for that heel hook. He still wanted to find a way to win. But there was times when I was, screwing up my face at what he must have been going through. He started looking really bloodied up. He was limping. He was having to fight southpaw, which, I'm sure he could still do to a reasonable level. But yeah, it was obviously very much a secondary game to what he would have liked to have played. He would have liked to have been in his normal stance, I'm sure. But yeah, I just don't know what's next for him. It'd be interesting to see who they perhaps give him next.
Yeah, it's Dan Hooker. It's a massive win for him to beat number 6 in the world by unanimous decision. It was 30-27, 30-27, 30-26, and I think that that's
about
fair,
right.
fair score. The
Sure.
Hooker's ranked 15 before this fight. I'd imagine he's probably going to get a big fight in his next fight just because of how impressive he was.
Yeah. And what I liked about Hooker, other than winning, so convincingly as he did, never did he try to rush the affair. He didn't unnecessarily try and put him away, which could have, got his opponent to come back in on the fight if he had caught him with any punches. He kept it simple. He kept him at range. He just kept chipping away. And I think that goes to show, a seasoned fighter. I want to see him step up a little bit and see what he's got against that high caliber guy. I think he's going to be one to watch for sure.
Absolutely. He was it's a very professional display, I thought.
Yeah.
So the main event, UFC Middleweight Championship unification. Robert Whittaker, the hometown guy, the middleweight champion, versus Israel Adesanya, the UFC interim middleweight champion. And Adesanya is impressive, and I really like Whittaker as well. He's one of my favorite guys to watch because he's just so powerful.
A great fighter to watch. Absolutely, he's a super nice guy as well. He's a good character for the sport, really is.
Yeah, both guys are actually. I felt like I feel like Adesanya has come on the scene over the last year or two, and really, it's like a new face, but he's got like a real personality in when he's talking on the mic, when he's fighting as well, which obviously is the most important thing. But he's so skillful.
He is absolutely skillful. Yeah. Largely untested on the ground. I think this is the thing we're all curious of. Who's going to be able to put him on the ground?
Jon Jones.
That's the missing recipe for Robert's game against him. I would have wanted to see Whittaker try to put him on the ground because he's a good wrestler. He's got a lot of wrestling background. I would have liked to have seen him use that in the equation, but it didn't come, unfortunately, for him.
No, Whittaker didn't quite get going, but I think a lot of that was because of how well Adesanya fought. So round one, I should say, the crowd was so loud for the intros and the start of this, and obviously with Whittaker's, he's from that neck of the woods.
Yeah, that's right.
It was so loud. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So the round begins. Whittaker charges as he does to Adesanya, and he throws a few lefts. Whittaker comes forward. He's swinging away at Adesanya. Adesanya's moving very quickly. Whittaker briefly stuns him. He landed a nice short left.
He did,
And Adesanya started attacking them with some jabs, just working the jab. He nailed. Although Whittaker nailed him as he went, as Adesanya went for the jab, he sort of nailed him with it was like a kind of overhand right. And then he tried to follow up with a high kick, which Adesanya was a bit too quick for, and he was out of the way.
I actually like Whittaker's style and strategy for the first round. I really did. When you've got someone of Adesanya's caliber, striking wise, and range and reach, he's obviously a rangy guy too. You have to come forward with a game that keeps them guessing, because otherwise they become precision monsters, and everything they throw seems to land. So he certainly did the right thing. He was Whittaker was doing step throughs, so he was throwing a right hand and stepping with it, and then throwing up a high left kick. So he was hitting ranges. He was going down at the legs, coming up high at the head with the kicks. Like I say, with those step through punches. So really getting Adesanya stepping back and looking a little defensive at times and leaning. So I really like that. I just feel that after he got knocked down, because he got knocked down right at the end, didn't he, of that first round? And once he got knocked down, suddenly he'd become less diverse in his striking format. Yes, he was still doing the step through strikes, but suddenly, he wasn't hitting low with the leg kicks. He was still trying for the high one only. And I think he started getting a little bit too predictable. And if you get predictable against someone of striking caliber of Adesanya, you're going to get found out and you're going to get picked apart. And that's what began to happen. You saw him whizzing past a couple of times, and you knew it was a matter of time before one hits him sweet again.
I thought the thing which I think Adesanya reminds me of like a young Jon Jones in just how rangy, like he's quite leggy and he's got that big reach, but he's so quick and powerful, and also he can hit strikes from kind of anywhere. Sometimes he didn't do it so much in this fight, but like those like kind of spinning elbows from where you're not quite expecting it, and it just very much reminds me of Jon Jones's early fights. So towards the end of the first round, Whittaker started well, and like you say, he had his game plan. He landed a left, missed a high kick attempt, but he went for that follow up high kick a couple of times in the first round, and then Adesanya then just towards the end of the round started to throw some combinations of his own, and he dropped Whittaker as Whittaker was swinging with a counter strike to end the round. And I think that's where, certainly from what you just said, I feel like we both agree that that's where the fight changed and swung.
Yeah, and that's when I would have liked to have seen Whittaker come out with a different aspect to his combinations in terms of his striking. So what do I mean by that? I mean with a takedown attempt, not in a way where he has to get the takedown though, but to at least get Adesanya thinking that there might be a takedown in the equation, along with the combinations with his hands and that high kick. Occasionally coming with those step through with his hands and dropping levels on him. Press him up against the fence, or at least threatening to, so he has to footwork even further back, because what was happening was he began to sidestep Whittaker and then throw the counter kicks and counter hands. But I had Whittaker maybe stuck a shoot attempt at the end of it. It might have made him think twice about countering why Whittaker was in close like that.
Yeah, because I suppose in the first round he was doing that same sort of similar move where he was following the punch in with the high kick. So if he'd added in the takedown, like you say, Adesanya wouldn't have been able to make the adjustment that he did in the round two, which was doing sidestep and hitting the counter kick. So,
and it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. Against someone with that kind of range, precision, and power, you have to keep them guessing. You have to make them, pause with that counter shot. If you're not making them pause with that counter shot, they're going to throw it almost knowing they're going to land it. And and that's what we ended up seeing. You can't take nothing away from that, Adesanya. He stopped Whittaker, and I think Whittaker looked impressive overall. And he does impress me as a martial arts athlete. That Adesanya, man, whoosh, who are you going to put in against him next? That's the thing.
That is the thing. We'll have a little chat about that in a minute. But let's have a little. Let's finish off this. So Adesanya, Adesanya backs Whittaker up with a big kick to the midsection. Adesanya and Whittaker, they both exchange some jabs. And then all of a sudden, Adesanya rocks Whittaker with a counter right hook. And that was one which I felt that really that hurt him, I felt. Because as he hit the right hook, he then attacked Whittaker with a high kick and then followed it with a combination, all really quick and really like snapped it back.
Yeah, he's beginning to open up on him. And that goes to show you that he knew he had Whittaker's game down. He was just waiting for his time.
It was almost like... Go on, sorry.
Yeah, he was just getting confident. He began to express more of his game when he would be relaxed. It became more of a heavy sparring session for him. His hands were getting lower. He was just using, lean backs to evade Whittaker's step forwards. That those becoming more and more laboured, and he was not bringing nothing new. So he'd already cottoned on to Whittaker's game plan. He was easily avoiding it, and feeling confident to counter it. And indeed he did. More and more throughout that second round.
Yeah, Adesanya does what he does very well is he assesses his opponents early on, and he seems to work out their game plan within within a minute or two. And it's something that Conor McGregor used to do very well in his early fights in the UFC. Is he would also almost size up his opponents in the first minute or two, work out what they were doing, make an adjustment, and
and put them away.
Do his thing. So Whittaker got nailed with that big counter right hook. Adesanya hit him with the kick and the combination. Whittaker keeps coming forward. He nails Adesanya with a big left hook, but he tries those high kicks again. But he just didn't seem to have the same power behind them and the same same accuracy as they'd had in the first round. They looked a lot more sharper in the first round. After he got hit with that combination and the hook, he just didn't quite have that same speed.
Adesanya was just leaning out of the way of them. He saw them coming. I mean, if you're going to be strict about someone's striking form, you perhaps shouldn't be leaning back out of those shots. But he's got the body length. He's got the range to get away with doing those leans. In a way, it reminds me a little bit of Anderson Silva. He used to lean out the way of these shots. I mean, it got him caught out eventually. I just think Father Time caught up with Anderson Silva eventually.
As it does with all of us, I think.
But Adesanya, what can you say? I mean, it's his striker. I mean, I don't know why Whittaker stood so long without an attempt at clinching him. I would have liked to have seen how Adesanya would have dealt with someone trying to grapple him as well.
Yeah, and I think that'll be the big test for him, I think, when someone tries to take him down or just clinches him up to see how he can react to that. Because, his striking is so precise and on point that if you give him that opportunity to put you away, he will. After those attempted high kicks to Adesanya, he responded by nailing Whittaker with a short right, and then he dropped it with a counter left hook, which was brutal. And then which was during the striking exchange, and then he pounced on him as he was down, and the referee jumped in. KO via strikes after 3 minutes and 33 seconds of round 2 to become the undisputed UFC champion, middleweight champion. I thought it was a good stoppage.
Yeah, it was. What is that now? 18-0? Is that what he's at now?
Yeah, I think it's 8.
18-0, I think it is. That's getting pretty impressive.
Yeah, and he hasn't really looked in any trouble in any of his fights, have he?
Not really. No, not really.
Very, very comfortable.
Yeah, like I said, I really liked Whittaker's style in the first round. I really liked that. I thought, oh, okay, he's got something that's pressing him back, but just missed that added ingredient. He didn't take away from the fight. He made it too much of a kickboxing match, which is going to go against you against Adesanya. You have to put in the MMA factor in it, and that would have been clinching up, trying to wrestle him up against that fence, trying to make it a little bit messy. Try and take the sting out of his tail, so to speak. But hey, I think in the future, we're going to see these two perhaps get it on again, and maybe we'll see a different strategy come into place.
Yeah, and I think, like we've discussed in pretty much all the fights, is you've got to be able to make those adjustments during the fight. Yeah. And Whittaker made a really good, strong start. He had a good game plan, and then he didn't adjust or he didn't progress that plan in the second round, and it played right into Adesanya's hands.
Yeah, the plan was getting less and less effective as time went on, but he kept doing it. It's like trying to knock a door down. It hurts your shoulder, so you try the other shoulder and you hurt that. At what point to bring something into the equation, try and knock that door down. He kept on going into him. He was getting hurt more, getting less effective. He had to bring something else to the table, and he didn't do that this time around.
Indeed. So, what is next for Israel Adesanya?
Well, I think,
Undisputed champ.
yeah. Well, there's another unbeaten fighter, isn't there? And that Paulo Costa.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
he's
this is
ranked
a
number
match I
2
would
as well.
really want to see. He's big. I think he might even be bigger than Adesanya. I would like to see. I like to see him get it on with him. That would
Yeah, I
excite
think
that fight.
that'd be a
Yeah,
very, very exciting fight. I
yeah,
think I was looking at the list, and there's no one else really which I look at and I think, oh, that could be quite an interesting fight. There's a couple of guys who would be
yeah,
a decent enough fight, but I
yeah,
think that's the one, isn't it? That's the
yeah.
and to be fair, Paulo Costa probably deserves a title shot, regardless of whether it was Whitaker or Adesanya.
Yeah,
Um, he probably is due a title shot.
I
However,
think so.
interestingly enough, Israel Adesanya this week, prior to the fight, was going back and forth with Jon Jones, uh,
Okay,
which was quite interesting. Obviously, you're not on Twitter, you, but on
I am
social
not.
media, they were going back and forth. Um,
Okay,
and that's a fight I would like to see. I'm not sure what weight they
what
would do it
weight?
at,
Yeah, I
but
gotta say, what weight would they do that at? But yeah, I mean, of course, that would be a great
because
fight to put up. But
what's, what's the
I don't know.
difference in middleweight and light heavyweight in terms of
Yeah, well,
weight?
light heavyweight's 205, isn't it? And
Yeah,
middle's 185. So yeah, I mean, it's
it's,
quite a bit
it's
of
quite a
weight.
big difference, isn't it?
I can't see Jon Jones coming down to that weight. So I'd
No,
imagine it would only ever be Adesanya going up to it. That would certainly be interesting.
be a big
Yeah, I
fight,
would,
wouldn't
I
it?
would want to see it if that could happen. I
Be a
think it's
big
really,
fight.
really interesting when you got two people dominating in their respective weights and they're willing to meet. I mean, would they meet in the middle at a catch weight? I think that would be the fairest scenario. But I don't know whether UFC will allow something like that to happen.
Yeah, I think over the last few years, UFC of Dana White has shown that if if there's money to be made, he's happy
Yeah,
to make fights,
yeah.
and
Because well,
sometimes,
he did it. He did it with Diaz and Connor, didn't he?
yeah, and he's, he's happy to make fights if it'll make the company money and it'll sell
Yeah,
pay-per-views. So I think they would do it. I just think that before that happens, you're probably going to get Israel versus Paulo Costa. You're probably going
yeah,
to get Jon Jones. I don't know if he's going to end up fighting Cormier. I think they're going to do Stipe Cormier again first,
yeah,
and then it'll
yeah,
be decision time whether Jon Jones is going to fight
yeah. I mean, I'd like to.
Cormier
Did
at
you see?
heavyweight or
I liked watching Jones when he fought Thiago Santos. You remember that fight?
yeah,
But Santos had trouble with his knee, didn't he, very early on? But
yes,
he looked like he could, be a threat to Jones.
he did, yeah.
But obviously, has to get himself back to health. I think. I think that I'd like to see that again. Although it's been something that's happened previous. I think there was obviously issues with the knees, which stopped him being as effective. But he looked like he could have perhaps been a little dangerous for him.
I wonder whether Jon Jones will want that fight though now, because I think
Yeah,
he'll look at
I
it
mean,
and he'll know that Santos can be a danger to him,
yeah,
and then he'll look at the potential fights with someone like Cormier at heavyweight or light
yeah,
heavyweight. That's the
yeah,
one he probably wants, or even a fight
yeah,
with Israel Adesanya. That's a huge
sure,
fight.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I wonder whether Thiago Santos will kind of take a bit of a back seat in terms of what Jon Jones wants to do. But
Yeah, and Jon Jones is probably in the driving seat regards who he
yeah,
decides to have. Um, I
yes,
think the other options are more money spinners for him and safer bets for him. So it's a bit of a no-brainer if he is going to pick either of the other two options. But on a personal note, and maybe for a lot of the viewers who are watching, Thiago Santos is someone that people want to see him fight again because he actually looked like he could show up a few vulnerabilities in Jones.
yeah. I thought the last couple of fights, Jones hasn't looked himself. He
Yeah,
hasn't looked that unbeatable. Like the last time he looked truly at his best, I felt, was the Cormier fight, which he obviously
Yeah.
ended up having the issues afterwards. But the
Yeah.
actual fight, I mean, he was dominant. He knocked him out with the head kick.
Mm-hmm.
And let's be fair, not many people have done that to Daniel Cormier over the years.
Yeah.
Obviously, there was the issues with the drug test and stuff afterwards.
Sure. Yeah.
And I do think that Jon Jones probably wants that fight more than anything, so he can prove once and for all. I mean, I think that he's proven it. That he's got Cormier's number. He's beaten him twice.
Me too.
I don't feel the need to see it again unless it's going to be at heavyweight to give Cormier a kind of edge. But then Cormier hasn't got the heavyweight belt now, which means what Jon Jones, I don't think has got the same. Like when Cormier had the heavyweight belt, I think that could have been a motivation for Jon Jones to have the 2-weight division. But now that he hasn't, I feel like he's probably not that interested in going to heavyweight to fight him. But who knows?
Yeah. I think we've seen the best of DC. He's not a young man anymore, is he?
No, I think he's going to be
definitely a fantastic fighter. Really enjoyed watching him, and he's still got something to offer the sport. Don't get me wrong; I'm not writing him off completely, but I've seen that fight twice now. Do I really want to see it a third time? I'm not sure. Convinced I do.
No.
So but it's not.
No, I'm the same. Yeah. I think he'll have his rematch with Stipe, and I think if he doesn't win, I think he'll retire. That's just my opinion. We can't have an MMA show without speaking of Conor McGregor. So
yes,
I saw that Khabib's father today. Actually, it was about an hour or so before the show. I saw it. He said that if Conor wants a rematch with Khabib, he has to come to Russia. And I mean, Conor said for the last couple of months that he wants to go to Russia and face Khabib.
Right.
I find it interesting, but I also think that one of the mistakes that Conor made with the Khabib fight was not having a tune-up fight, if you like.
Exactly.
Some sort of fight before it. And I think if he makes that same mistake again, not having a fight before he goes and fights Khabib, it's just a mistake.
I don't know who manages Conor's fights, and on his behalf, or whether he just does it himself. But he hasn't won now for quite a few years. He hasn't won a fight, and he's only fought once in MMA since 2016. We're getting to the latter part of 2019 now. It's not frequent enough to stay and keep all your tools sharp in terms of MMA. There's a lot of areas you have to keep on top of an MMA bout. I would like to see him face someone else who's had some losses that would still be a good fight to watch. Personally, I would like to see him fight someone like Kevin Lee.
Bob Cerrone.
Yeah, or Cerrone, but Cerrone's fought so much, hasn't he? He's just fought so much. I just thinking, Kevin Lee has got to try to re-establish himself, and really, Conor McGregor's got to kind of re-establish himself. They can both beat each other on any given day, I'm sure. But I think this will be a fair fight on both parties, and something that I think would create a little bit of excitement to watch. And it'd be a great platform for either of them if they got the victory over each other to put them back up into the running again and to be taken seriously again.
Do you know why I think that they won't make that fight? I think I agree with you. I think they should, and I think Conor has to have some sort of fight before he faces Khabib for his own sake. Even if you take out the thing of like he got beaten soundly, so he should earn it. Just from his own point of view, I felt like that was one of the major mistakes. I felt he made a few major mistakes, but in the run-up, that was the main mistake he made, was not having some sort of tune-up or just a fight before he faced Khabib, because Khabib's, he's another level. And I feel like it'll be the same mistake again if he does that. The reason I don't think they'll make that is because they don't want Conor to lose. Because that takes the money and everything out of the Khabib fight.
I mean, I would like to see Conor McGregor be built up again. He's certainly young enough for them to do that. There's a big enough pool of fighters for him to go up against that. He stands a good chance of winning, and you can't write him off against any fighter with that kind of KO rate that he has. But I would like to see him fight someone else who's had some losses, just to put himself back up in the mix. And I think he becomes, a lot more credible and a lot more dangerous with the confidence of a win. And I think he'd be more convincing too. I think if you're going to do a lot of trash talking, which you've come to expect from Conor, it would come with a little bit more oomph behind it, having got a win behind him, to follow it up.
If he could go into that Khabib fight, having soundly beaten a Kevin Lee, or or a Cerrone or someone who's got a name, and he can go in and say, he knocked him out in a minute, or whatever. Suddenly his promos and his mic work have got a lot more weight behind them.
Which is
whereas
what
if he goes in now, it's kind of like he can't really talk the talk because he got mauled and soundly beaten by Khabib.
But Kevin Lee, so he'll trade some shots with Conor. There's no two ways about that. But Kevin Lee will also try and press him up against the fence. And so if Conor can withstand that and put a good, showcase up for his anti-wrestling and put him away, then I think you start building up that story again that could make an interesting bout between him and Khabib.
And I got to say, if there was one fighter in the world of MMA who could go to Russia and fight Khabib, and whether he wins or if anyone in the world was going to do it in Russia, it would be Conor McGregor, I have to say. Similar to how I thought if there was one MMA fighter who was going to go into boxing and give Floyd Mayweather a bit of a, even just a decent fight, it was going to be him, because he just seems to have that. I just don't know what it is. It's like a swagger or a star power or just something special.
His confidence can convince his opponents that he's going to win. I think sometimes he's had people beat before he's even stepped in the cage.
What was the forgetting his name? He got drawn a blank. The one he beat in like 5 seconds or 10 seconds. What's his name? Oh, that's good.
Aldo.
Legend. Yeah,
Aldo. Yeah.
He just, even in the whole build up to that fight, Aldo just looked off. He looked unsettled, and he didn't look for the whole years previous to that. He'd looked like a stone cold killer. He looked just ice cold in all his promos, in all his face offs and weigh-ins and everything. And then suddenly Conor just got under his skin.
Absolutely, he did.
Just couldn't.
And the funny thing, I mean, I don't know if you remember any of the details beforehand, but Conor even predicted the combination that led to his demise. He goes, he'll come out, he'll overstretch, he'll throw the left hook straight. He predicted it as well.
So he knew what he was going for.
Yeah, almost seemingly so. I mean,
and another one he got into the skin of was Eddie Alvarez as well. I felt
absolutely
like
he did.
Really got to him.
Yeah, he did. And even when I was thinking, Eddie's another step up. But he made short work of him. You can never ever write off Conor McGregor because of what he has achieved previously. But that said, he hasn't won a fight in quite a number of years now. Let's get him back on winning ways, or at least potentially, by facing someone like Kevin Lee. No, I'm not saying Kevin Lee would lose against him, because Kevin Lee's got all the attributes to beat anyone on any given day. But he's had his losses. McGregor's has his losses. Let's get them matched up. Personally, I think that'd still be a good fight to watch, and it would put either of them, whoever would come out victorious, back up there in the mix for real contention with the people in the top 5.
Yeah, I agree. I think the one thing with Kevin Lee is he reminds me of the French rugby team, in that you never know what Kevin Lee is going to turn up on what day. So one day he could turn up and he could look like a world-class fighter who could beat anyone. And then on another day he looks a bit sluggish, and I don't want to use the word lazy, but like kind of not motivated.
I think he's a big weight cutter, isn't he? He's another one that cuts a lot of weight. Whether it could be down to that or not, I don't know. But one thing that I feel that I noticed with Kevin Lee is that his cardio is not always the best. Now, whether that really is the fact that it's his cardio that's an issue, or whether it's the amount of energy he puts in too early that becomes an issue. I mean, you get a marathon runner to to run the first 5 miles doing under 4-minute miles, he's not going to win the marathon race in the long run. So whether he's just going off at too much of a fast sprint in matches, and then his pace seems to drop off quite quickly. So I don't know. And Conor almost suffers the same thing, doesn't he? He doesn't always seem to. But he's a really explosive guy also. So another reason why I think it'd be a really interesting matchup in that both seem to have that seemingly weakness in their game.
Yeah, it'd certainly be an interesting fight, particularly the first 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah. It's going to be big fireworks, I'm sure.
Okay, so just to finish off the first episode of the Danny Batten Show, we'll do some questions. Okay, the first question we had was, how can MMA companies or athletic commissions ensure weight cutting is safer? Because it feels like we're waiting to have a high-profile tragedy linked to weight cutting, as we've seen in some other sports around the world.
Yeah, I mean, this is always going to be a bit of a problem as long as there's weight cutting in the game, unless you're going to do on the day weigh-ins, which I'm sure will come with its controversies as well. I think probably it's to do several weigh-ins and assessments of their health leading up to the weighing. How best to go about that, only the specialist will know. So perhaps that way, to know that they're coming down. But I think they do something along those lines now anyway, don't they? And, not allowing them to cut so much and then gain so much straight after. They're probably doing the best they can to limit it already as it is.
So just again, I go back to like the casual fan or the people who are not so familiar with perhaps what the weight cut entails. Why is it, or why can it be so dangerous for fighters to cut weight?
Well, you're simply taking water out your body, and we're predominantly made of water. And some people are pushing this to such a level that it can cause health issues or even death. Some people are just pushing that boundary a step too far. I've been on the receiving end of not feeling very well from weight cutting in the wrong way. Back in my time, it was not so well known about how to weight cut in the proper way. But now people are a lot better educated. But nevertheless, people still want to be the bigger fighter. I think that's becoming less important now, more than ever. But that's only been in sort of like recent years. But for some reason, fighters want to be that bigger fighter and put their confidence in on being that bigger fighter and willing to do it at any consequence. So maybe doing periodic weigh-ins leading up to the actual day of the weight cut would protect the fighters. But this is really down to specialists, I'm not involved in the medical industry to know enough about the body to know the best way forward with that. But all I can tell you is, weight cutting, for some athletes who choose to do it to the extreme, it ain't healthy for them, and could potentially be fatal, as it's proven in the past with some people.
Yeah, I think some Muay Thai fighter died, I think, last year.
That's right, yeah.
There's been a couple of, there's like the famous videos with like Cyborg and some other some other fighters who've, been weight cutting, and they've been filmed during the worst sort of parts of it.
Yeah.
In terms of like why fighters do it, is it literally just to try and get an edge?
Well, initially, yeah.
Power or.
Yeah, I mean, you want to be the bigger guy. I mean, if you've got a bit of weight advantage, it's considered to be going in your favour, especially if you're so well matched in every other area. It's just part of the equation that can lead to a potential win. It's part of it. But perhaps the more interesting side of that weight cut, yes, you could go in as a bigger man, but if you push it a little bit too far, you're going to have a deficit to your cardio. or maybe be knocked out a little easier, because obviously your brain takes more than 24 hours to hydrate. You are a little bit open to being affected by those, glazing shots that, some people are like, oh, how did that knock him out? But when you're dehydrated, you get knocked out a whole lot easier than you would if you had a hydrated brain.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's a playoff. It's just part of the mix. I can't see it going away anytime soon.
No. I suppose it's the same as any other professional sport at the highest level. Is these athletes, professionals, they're looking for any advantage that they can get.
Yeah.
Within, the laws or the rules of that sport.
Yeah.
Whether it's football, boxing, athletics, it's anything. Even things like cricket, everything. Professional athletes at the highest level will look at every aspect of their sport.
Yeah.
Whether it's behind the scenes from their nutrition and things like this, or the supplements they take, or the training they do, or the balls they use, whatever it may be, they will look for every advantage that they can get.
Yeah.
And I guess with weight cutting, it's a case of weighing up the advantages or the disadvantages and deciding whether that's what they want to do. But I just think from a fan point of view, and people watching it like us, and like you, obviously you're involved with training fighters and stuff. It's just making sure that these fighters can do it as safely as possible.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I can say is, on my side of things, from what I witnessed from it in my training camp, my guys have latched onto someone that does it on a scientific level, plans out their diet, how much water they need to take on, when to stop taking on that water. So when they do their water load phase, and I know for that part of it, it is being done in the safest way as possible. This guy gives them proper guidance, and as far as I'm concerned, all my guys are cutting weight in a as healthiest way as possible. They're not trying to be the bigger man as such. They're just doing the weight cut of what this guy says is safe to do for their walk around weight. So no one's trying to reach a weight lower than this guy is saying they should do.
Okay, that's good.
So as long as the coach and the team is doing the best by the athletes in terms of their longevity in the sport and their safety in the sport, I think it can be done fairly and safely. You just got to have the right person giving that information to the fighters, and for the fighters to do that information that being given and do with it the right way. Of course, they could all cut corners and end up going on the weigh-in day a little heavy and having to cut more weight than they should. But if they're getting the guidance right and they do it right, I've seen that the results are all good and all safe.
Cool. So final question was, what's more, as a fighter, what's more dangerous? A counter-attacking fighter with speed and power, like a Israel Adesanya type fighter, or a powerful fighter who comes at you and keeps coming?
Yeah. Okay.
Like
so
Iaquinta or something.
There's two ways you can look at this. So an aggressive fighter who comes at you, they're bringing their body mass in as they throw their punches and kicks. They're coming towards you. So you could say that, okay, they got their body weight coming forward with the shot, which can add to power. But by the same token, if you get a counter fighter, let's use Jesse Elder as an example. He keeps his feet really grounded, and he waits for them to come in with their range and then throws the shot. So it's all about their timing and so on and so forth. But they have their feet really planted as they throw their shots. So as outright power shots, I would say the person with the most planted feet would have the potential to throw the hardest shot than someone walking forward. So let's look at the example. Remember those old punch machines that used to have in amusements? I think that if you had someone who knows their range and have their feet planted, will punch harder than someone who takes a run up at it. Quite simply because if you are going forward with your momentum, as though you are going forward with your body weight, your feet are somewhat disconnected from the ground. And I would say you have to have grounded feet to have the potential to throw the hardest shot. So I will say counter fighter.
Cool. Okay. And that's us pretty much done for this evening and our first episode of the Danny Batten Show. You can check out Danny's Academy website, which is bstacademy.co.uk, and You can check us out at facebook.com/ACEcast Nation. We're also on Twitter at ACEcast_Nation. And as I said at the start of the show, you can watch all the shows, not just this one, the football, all the other podcasts, via video at youtube.com/Ace Podcast Nation, or audio download at Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, and loads of others. Drop us a thumbs up, drop us some comments, tell us what you liked, tell us what you didn't like, and we'll be back in a few weeks for UFC 244. And thank you, Danny, for joining me, mate. Really enjoyed that.
Thank you, Simon. Pleasure as always.
And indeed. And we'll see you all next time. Thank you for joining us.